Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me. And for today's episode, we're going to be taking a look back at one of the most revolutionary pieces of tech ever. It's easy to forget now, but not too long ago, it was a pretty big deal to be able to watch movies from the comfort of your own home. Well, today we're going to explore how a small invention did just that and changed the way we consume media forever. So let's dive in. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and following my page. You can also click the bell icon so you never miss an upload. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Revolution. Now, I bet almost everyone watching this has fond memories of sitting on the floor staring at a TV set. The year is 1984. You're 5 years old and you're surrounded by hundreds of colorful boxes. Each one offers an adventure, a ticket to another world. What's inside those boxes? VHS tapes, of course. But it's easy to forget just how groundbreaking this tech was. Until recently, the movie experience was something that happened away from home, a trip to the cinema. After all, why would you want to spend money building a theater room at home when you could go out and experience all the hype surrounding a Blockbuster release? And although some people did have TVs large enough to mimic the experience of going to the cinema, the quality was often poor. Unless you could afford a projector, you had to make do with whatever your set offered. Plus, you were limited to whatever was currently airing. Then in the mid-1970s, everything changed. A slew of patents led to the creation of devices that allowed consumers to record videos onto magnetic tape, meaning they could watch whenever they wanted. And while it might seem strange now, back then, it was revolutionary. No longer did you have to wait for television broadcasts or shelling out money to go to the cinema. Instead, you could enjoy your favorite programming from the comfort of your own home. So naturally, everyone was eager to see what this new technology had to offer. Now, it turns out there were actually two main formats that dominated the market. There was Sony's Betamax and JVC's VHS. But which one won out? While Betamax was slightly better overall, having higher resolution and better color reproduction, it was VHS that prevailed. And the reason was simple: cost. VHS was cheaper to manufacture, which translated to lower prices for customers. On top of that, VHS had longer recording capabilities. However, despite the advantages of VHS, both formats had their drawbacks. For instance, Betamax tapes degraded faster than VHS tapes, meaning that you couldn't reuse them as often. However, this didn't matter too much since both formats were primarily used for one-time viewing anyway. That being said, the cost savings associated with VHS meant that many consumers preferred them, resulting in more content being released for VHS players. As such, it wasn't long before VHS became the dominant format, capturing around 80% of the market share by 1982. And the rest, as they say, is history. But let's take a step back here and think about how VHS really impacted society. At the time, renting a movie could cost around $4 a night. That may seem expensive by today's standards, but it was actually quite cheap when compared to a cinema ticket. And so people were quick to take advantage of this. In fact, during the 1980s, the popularity of VHS grew exponentially, with sales increasing from 8 million units in 1981 to over 30 million by 1985. During this period, VHS players became commonplace in American households, becoming more popular than any other type of gadget. On top of that, movie studios saw an opportunity to boost revenue by releasing their films directly onto VHS. And so it wasn't long before every single Blockbuster title was available to rent. However, as time went on, consumers began to demand more from their video players. They wanted better quality, more features, and especially more convenience. And although VHS tried to keep up, it just couldn't compete with newer technologies. Chapter 2. The Video Store Era. By the 1980s, the rise of VHS had transformed home entertainment as we knew it. Now, while some had invested in pricey Laserdisc players, most Americans had opted for the cheaper, more accessible VHS option. And it wasn't just movies that were available either. People could now buy or rent concert footage, instructional programs, educational material, and even classic TV shows, and it wasn't long before video rental stores became an integral part of pop culture. On Friday nights, families would pile into their cars and head down to the local video store. Inside, they'd browse aisles upon aisles of colorful covers, each promising a different kind of adventure. Kids would argue over which movie to rent, while parents tried to find something the whole family could enjoy. The stores themselves were designed to maximize customer dwell time, ensuring that customers spent as much time as possible inside browsing the latest releases. And it worked. Some stores even featured comfy seating areas where families could watch trailers and make their selection. It wasn't just about the movies, though. Renting VHS tapes was an experience. Customers could browse new releases and hidden gems, discover forgotten classics, and interact with knowledgeable staff who could offer recommendations based on their preferences. Moreover, these stores were a social hub, a place where people could catch up with friends and share their opinions on the latest blockbusters. It wasn't uncommon for customers to linger over their selections, discussing the pros and cons of each film before finally deciding what to watch. Once they'd made their choice, they'd head to the counter, hand over their money, and take their prize home. Of course, the video rental industry soon became extremely competitive. Small mom-and-pop shops popped up everywhere, trying to differentiate themselves from the bigger chains. Some focused on customer service, offering friendly advice and a wide selection of titles. Others emphasized convenience, staying open late and delivering to customers' homes. But no matter what their strategy, all of these businesses had one thing in common: a passion for movies and a desire to bring them to the widest audience possible. Ultimately, the video rental industry helped usher in a new era of entertainment, one that was more accessible, affordable, and enjoyable than ever before. Chapter 3: VHS and Pop Culture. Now, it's hard to overstate just how big of an impact VHS had on our culture. Not only did it make it possible for people to watch movies from the comfort of their own homes, but it also opened up new possibilities for filmmakers and consumers alike. In fact, some genres thrived on VHS, none more so than horror. Movies like Halloween and The Evil Dead found new life on home video, becoming instant cult classics among teenagers and young adults. These films were often marketed with eye-catching covers that promised scares and thrills around every corner. And once inside, viewers were treated to a visual feast. Of course, the quality wasn't always great, but that didn't stop fans from eagerly anticipating each new release. But VHS wasn't just about horror. Music lovers could now purchase their favorite concerts and artists and relive the experience as if they were there live. Workout tapes became all the rage, allowing people to tone their bodies without leaving the house. Even educational programs found their niche on VHS, helping students learn everything from math to history. And let's not forget about recording. With a blank tape, anyone could capture their favorite TV shows, sports games, or even family moments. It was a truly democratic medium that put the power of creation into the hands of the people. However, this freedom wasn't always a good thing. In the early days, there were few regulations governing what could be sold on VHS, leading to a proliferation of low-quality recordings and even bootleg copies of popular movies. But as the industry matured, things improved significantly. Movie studios took more control over their releases, ensuring that the quality met their standards. And although piracy remained a problem, it was nothing compared to what it is today. All in all, VHS was more than just a technology. It was a cultural phenomenon that changed the way we consume media forever. Chapter 4: VHS, the Peak and the Decline. As we mentioned earlier, by the 1990s, VHS was at its peak. Blockbuster, the biggest name in video rentals, had over 6,000 stores worldwide and offered a staggering 150,000 titles. But behind the scenes, the writing was on the wall. Consumers were starting to demand better picture quality, more advanced features, and greater convenience. And although VHS tried to keep up with new releases and lower prices, it just couldn't compete with the competition. DVDs, the next generation of home entertainment, offered sharper images, better sound, and no need to rewind. And so, it wasn't long before they began to dominate the market. By the early 2000s, movie studios started releasing fewer and fewer VHS tapes, opting instead for the newer, more advanced format. This trend continued until 2006, when the last major Hollywood film released on VHS was A History of Violence. But although the format was officially dead, VHS didn't disappear completely. Many people held on to their old tapes and memories, cherishing them as tangible artifacts of a bygone era. The last Blockbuster closed its doors in 2013, marking the end of an era. But even today, vintage VHS players can be found in antique shops and online marketplaces. Some people have even begun to collect VHS tapes again, drawn to the nostalgia and charm of this outdated technology. After all, there's something undeniably cozy about the fuzzy picture and whirring sound of a VHS player. It reminds us of simpler times, when movies were something we shared with friends and family, something we looked forward to each week in the red box with a silver strip. The rise of streaming services has given us unprecedented access to content. However, sometimes it's nice to take a break from the endless scrolling and immerse ourselves in the physicality of a tangible medium. Holding a VHS tape in our hands and inserting it into a player allows us to disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with the simple pleasures of analog entertainment. Well, that wraps up our look back at one of the most influential pieces of tech ever. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Retro Rewind. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channels. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.